right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Lal, and we are going to commence with the state court expedited accusation calendar. This is a new misdemeanor cases in which individuals were recently arrested. The prosecutor, which is the Solicitor General's Office of Fulton County, has already accused these cases. So this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. Let me see. Okay. For those of you who have one or more misdemeanor charges brought against you, please remember the following. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney if you cannot afford one of our attorneys from our public defender's office or the conflict defense list will be representing you. I'm just trying to find out. Is it Miss Grace? Yes, Miss Grace.
Yes, ma'am.
What's the reset date for
7/20.
Okay, July 20th?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, who do we have in courtroom 2 first?
Position 1.
All right, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and fix this. All right, we have, is that Jalen Abner?
No, Miss Bale.
Miss Bell, okay.
Your Honor, I believe Jalen Abner was on the calendar yesterday.
Okay, so I printed up the wrong calendar. All right, no problem. Okay. I can go ahead and do this. All right. Miss Michaela Bell is accused of battery from an accusation filed today and the alleged incidents from July 6, 2023. Miss Bell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Finling. Mr. Howard, is it
First.
Mr. Howard? Yes, first arrest. Okay.
Correct.
All right. And Miss, who's our ASG today? Is it Miss Falk?
No, Your Honor, it's me.
Oh, Miss Nemene. Oh, sorry. Thank you. All right. Miss Nemene. Is it Miss Nemene? Am I got that right?
Nimini. Yes, sir.
Nimini. Okay, almost there. All right, Miss Nimini, what is the state's recommendation for Miss Bell?
The state would actually like to put the facts on the record.
Go ahead.
Officers dispatched to the home of Miss Robbie Ross at 3280 Drexel Lane, apartment 15 in East Point. A defendant stated that she was there to get her possessions, but her grandmother, Miss Robbie Ross, and the other victim, Desiree Clark, would not allow her due to her grandma wanting her to return her cell phone that Miss Ross had purchased for her. Defendant did go into the home to retrieve her things, but her grandmother allegedly blocked her way. And when she tried to move past her grandmother, the defendant claims that her grandmother put her into a headlock. That is when defendant jumped on her grandmother, and then her defendant's cousin Desiree Clark came in and tried to grab defendant off of her, Mrs. Ross. And trying to stop the fight, defendant did end up biting her cousin, Miss Desiree Clark, and officers did observe injuries and bite marks. Currently, the state was able to speak to Miss Ross, her grandmother, and let the state know that defendant did get upset with her and did attack her because she asked her what had happened. I would like to sound for the victims, Miss Robbie Ross and Miss Desiree Clark, if they are present today. So the state is recommending a $3,500 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, 1 day of anger awareness, stay away from both Miss Robbie Ross and Desiree Clark, and no further contact.
Miss Ross, Miss Clark, if you are present, please unmute. I see a Maddie Obi, but I don't know if that's related.
Yes, this is Desiree Clark speaking. I'm here.
All right, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm? The other right hand.
Oh, shoot. I'm sorry.
Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Do you live at this location, Drexel Lane apartment?
I do not. I'm currently visiting.
Okay. All right, that's all I need to know. Thank you. Is there a Miss Ross? I mean, not Ross. I'm not sure who else. Robbie Ross. No? Okay. Mr.
Yeah,
Finley?
give me 1 second. I'm trying to help her do the Zoom thing. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Mr. Finley, what is your recommendation?
And good afternoon. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well, Judge.
You too.
But,
Good to see you.
Yes, on behalf of Ms. Bell is 18 years old, Judge. She does have family here, so she does have community ties. Also, she does have somewhere else to go, Judge. So she does have somewhere else to stay, a different location. She did recently graduate high school. As like I said, she's only 18 years old. And Judge, we did hear her criminal history or lack thereof. She has no criminal history. So for that reason, I am asking for a signature bond on Ms. Bell's behalf, Judge.
All right. Bond is going to be set at $2,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. She will need to stay away from 3280 Drexel Lane apartment. The entire complex, not just apartment 15 in East Point, Georgia. No further contact with Desiree Ross and Robbie Ross. Did I get those names right?
Yes,
Desiree
my name
King.
is Robbie Ross.
Was it Robbie Ross and Desiree Ross?
No.
No,
Rob-
Desiree Clark.
Desiree Clark, thank you. All right, and Miss Bell, you have a signature bond which you can sign up for today. I'm not going to require a co-signer, but you cannot return to that entire apartment complex. Does she have any other personal belongings there?
Yes, she does. The police gave it back to me, but she had it and they gave it back to me.
All right, so we're going to allow Miss Mikhail Bell to go there one time only with a police officer to retrieve your belongings. Then after that, you're not to have any contact with your grandmother and with Desiree, and you make sure that you let us know your new address within 30 days of being released. So, Mr. Finling, I don't know where else she needs, where is her alternative address?
Do you want me to go ahead and give that, Judge?
You
Or-
can send that to Mr. Howard, to pretrial Howard.
They need to go on the bond order, Judge.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
And you can send that, and then you'll also send that to Miss Melissa Grace, who is who's our litigation manager, in the chat.
understood. All right, will do, Judge.
Right. But she's got a responsibility of making sure that she comes to court and updates her address with the clerk's office as well.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. And while she's out on a signature bond, she will need to complete a one-day anger awareness program with the pretrial services. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and she's not allowed to possess any weapons or firearms. Thank you. Next case, please.
Position 2. Ms. Bethay.
Did you say position 10?
2.
2, sorry. Okay. This is Deja Nicole Bethia. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. And Deja Bethia is accused of the following offense, which is misdemeanor escape from custody and confinement. And Mr. Bethia, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is going to be Mr. Finlay. And Mr. Howard, any priors?
16 total. Last arrest was in June. FTA for battery, simple battery out of the cab. Theft by taking this year, giving false name, obstruction, possession of a firearm during the commission, escape, and forgery. That was from 2022. 2021 battery, 2020 false statements, 2020 probation and failure to appear. 2019 failure to appear, giving false name.
That's good. Thank you very much. Ms. Nimini, what do you recommend for Ms. Bethia?
Considering that Ms. Bethia, the officers were transporting the defendant when she used the restroom and she exited the restroom through another locked door, and they found her 2 hours later at Georgia State University. The state is recommending a 5,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, stay away from Georgia State University, and considering that there was a escape last year, that is the state's recommendation, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Finley?
Yes, Judge. Ms. Bethea is 27 years old, Judge. She is from Atlanta, born and raised, so she does have community ties. She is employed, and Judge, I have to point out, I'm not sure if you saw when Ms. Bethea walked up, but she is 37 weeks pregnant, and she is due on August 1st. So I am gonna ask for a signature bond, Judge. It is a health issue. She also said she has stitches that are on her stomach. That's causing some kind of pressure, obviously with her being pregnant, Judge. So I am asking for a signature bond on her behalf, and did stress to her the importance of obviously respecting the legal process and coming back to court. And she assured me she would.
All right, a bond is set at 2,500. It is a surety bond. And next court date is going to be April 28th. Sorry, July 20th. Thank you.
Position 11, Ms. Mitchell.
Thank you. This is State versus Courtney Cordondra Mitchell. Ms. Mitchell is accused of 6 offenses, and they include 2 counts of simple assault, 2 counts of pointing a gun or pistol at another, disorderly, and 2 counts of disorderly conduct. Ms. Mitchell, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Finley.
And Your Honor, I will actually be, good afternoon, Your Honor. I'll be representing Ms.
Oh,
Mitchell.
Mr. Doties, okay, gotcha. All right, and Mr. Howard, any priors?
9th arrest, last was 2005 probation. Before that was 1999 simple battery conviction.
And our prosecutor is Ms. Falk. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Your Honor. So this happened July 7th, at 2353 Metropolitan Parkway. Dispatch was given a notification to a fight in that area with a firearm, and then the officer was flagged down by 2 motorists. First, he spoke to the defendant, who stated she and Sean Heflin were in a disagreement about the defendant's tow truck, that Heflin had previously done work for her. They had a romantic relationship, and she was unable to get the keys for her truck. At some point, this argument moved into the streets. The officer spoke to Mr. Heflin, who stated he didn't know the defendant wanted the keys to the tow truck and was mad because a female, Tequila Williams, was in his vehicle. Mr. Heflin stated he tried to get away, struck the defendant's vehicle in the rear while trying to exit. At that point, the defendant exited the vehicle with a firearm in her hand, took Mr. Heflin's phone, and demanded the keys back to her tow truck. When questioned, the defendant did admit to having a gun on her. She claimed she never pointed it at Ms. Williams and Mr. Heflin, who both stated she did in fact point the gun at them. There are 9 cycles, including that simple battery, which was actually pled down from an aggravated assault, and she was sentenced on that in 2001. There's also a 2005 probation violation in Morrow. Given the fact that this case involved a firearm, and given the fact that the defendant herself admitted to having the firearm on her, although her story differs from that of the witnesses, the state is asking for a $30,000 surety bond. That's going to be $10,000 on each of the pointing a pistol at another, $2,500 on the remaining 4 charges. We are further asking for no further contact with Tequila Williams and Sean Heflin, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons. And we are requesting that the defendant surrender all firearms to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office and have no firearms on her person or in her possession. That's all for the state.
All right, thank you. Mr. Dotis?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Mitchell is 45 years old. As we heard, her last arrest was all the way back in 2005. I have good contact information for Ms. Mitchell, and she is a lifelong resident of the state of Georgia, as well as the city of Atlanta. She does have good family ties, including her mom, brother, and her brother's girlfriend, who I all have contact information for. I also have an address for her. It is the Fairburn address that is listed on the booking report. She did confirm that. Miss Mitchell was last studied pre-nursing at the Atlanta Metro College, and she currently works for ADP Payroll in customer service, where she has a job waiting for her if she is released. Additionally, she does own her own tow truck, which she contracts out for towing jobs, which, as stated in the report, was at the center of this incident. Miss Mitchell maintains her innocence, and I do want to point out that there's some speculation with the officer stating, I think Mr. Heflin may have been trying to get away from Miss Mitchell and then struck her vehicle in the rear. It's not clear to me what preceded that. In speaking with Miss Mitchell, she has been trying to get her tow truck back for weeks, and this incident did escalate once she saw Mr. Heflin, not in the tow truck, but did see him. It's not clear from the report what happened, but at some point, Mr. Heflin did strike her vehicle in the rear. Miss Mitchell was fearful for her life, but she does maintain her innocence and absolutely did not point a weapon at any individual on this day. We would request a signature bond for Miss Mitchell, as she has stated that she cannot afford any amount of bond. I would also like to note that my client was the one that called 911 and arranged for officers to meet them at the precinct. Additionally, she's fine with no further contact. The address we have on the booking sheet on Jessica Lane is not an address that the either complaining witness would go to. So she's fine with the no further contact. We would request a one-time sheriff's escort so that Miss Mitchell can retrieve her tow truck without any further incidents.
Is it an impound?
It's not an impound. My understanding is that Mr. Heflin has possession of her tow truck. She's been trying to get it back. I'm not clear if Mr. Heflin is still in possession of it, and Miss Mitchell is clear that that's a separate matter she'll need to deal with. But I do want to make sure that she has the opportunity to retrieve that in a way that won't lead to any further incidents.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, and if I may, we would like to sound for one, Ms. Takilia Williams and Mr. Sean Heflin. Two, do we have an address of where this one-time police escort is happening? Because I don't have an address.
I don't know where the truck is. No Williams. I can see no Williams or Sean Heflin or Takilia Williams. Okay, on each count of simple assault, count 1 and count 2, and the weapons charge, count 3 and count 4, are going to be $1,000 each, and that's going to be a surety bond. On count 5 and count 6, disorderly conduct, is going to be $1,000 each, and that's going to be a signature bond through the jail. The total bond is a $6,000 split bond. No further contact with Takilia Williams and Sean Heflin. No weapons and no firearms. She's to surrender all firearms that she owns or possesses, and they must be surrendered to the authorities for destruction. With regards to the tow truck, that is purely a civil matter. So Ms. Mitchell will have to go through either small claims court or a state court or superior court and file the appropriate civil action to retrieve her property. Thank you. Next case, please. I'm just going to take a brief recess to get the right printout, just for a moment.
Yeah.
Come on, ladies, good job. All right, I'm back. Sorry, who was saying something just now?
Position 4.
Your Honor, briefly for position 11, I forgot to note, even though we were happy to represent Ms. Mitchell, she does not qualify for the services of the public defender moving forward.
All right, so if Ms. Mitchell is in the courtroom, Deputy, is she still in the courtroom?
Yes.
All right, please let her know that she would need to hire her own attorney from this point onwards. Thank you. All right, position 4 is Michael Cosby, who's accused of, is that correct, Michael Cosby?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, accused of disorderly conduct, public drunk, and public indecency. Mr. Cosby, your alleged incident date was from July 7th, 2013, and you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Finling. Mr. Howard, any priors?
Yeah, let me shorten this for you. 82 total. He got an open case in Superior Court. Criminal damage to property, second degree, simple battery, trespass, and obstruction. 2022 public drunk trespass conviction. 2021 PI trespass, public drunk conviction, and a 2020 public
That's-
drunk obstruction.
That's good, thank you. Ms. Nimini? What?
Yeah.
Yes, your
Yes, Your
recommendation.
Honor. So this incident occurred July 2nd of this year at 30 Alabama Street, near MARTA 5 stations, and 20 Alabama Street near the Binky's restaurant. Officers were patrolling near 5 Points, and they observed defendant using provocative language and vulgar language in a boisterous manner. Defendant's voice was slurred as he swayed back and forth. When he was walking, defendant did expose himself to patrons who were sitting outside of the restaurant. And a witness did see and corroborate that he was exposing himself to customers as he was yelling, as defendant was yelling profanity. Considering that defendant is a career criminal, and as we've heard, he has 82 cycles, the state is asking for a 5,000 surety bond, 1,000 for the first two charges, and 3,000 for the public indecency, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, to stay away from 5 Points MARTA location, and no further contact with the witness, Ms. Danielle Williams.
Mr. Finley, what do you recommend?
Yes, Judge. I was going to ask for a $1,000 surety bond, Judge. He is on disability, so finances are an issue in his life. He is from Atlanta, but does not have any family here any longer that is still alive. So he is nobody that'd be able to.
Understood.
Yeah.
And the disorderly conduct is 500, the public drunk is 500, and the third count is 1,000. Total bond is $2,000. It is a surety bond. I think Mr. Cosby has reached a stage in his life where a signature bond is very difficult to be granted. To stay away from the entire 5 Points MARTA location. So that would be, you cannot go to the MARTA station, you cannot go to any of the restaurants, including Binky's at 30 Alabama Street. You're not to consume any alcohol, no illegal drugs, and not have any firearms. We'll see you in court on July 20th. Next case, please. Yes, Mr. Cosby?
My income is still pending. I don't have an income. Not gonna go to a treatment every day until I go to court if I'm granted a signature bond.
All right, your attorney will speak with you with regards to what kind of options may be available for you. But you have 82 arrest cycles.
That's over a 30-year period.
And you have too many similar offenses in the past. You do qualify. You do not qualify for a signature bond. So that concludes your case. Thank you.
Just, can you go over that bond again?
Yes, disorderly conduct and public drunk are 500 each. And the third charge is 1,000 surety.
Thank you.
Courtroom 2, I'm going to take you up in one moment. Who is at Alpharetta Jail? Alpharetta Jail. Is there an officer standing by? At the Alpharetta Jail?
Position 3, Mr. Bighart.
Is that Anthony Bighart?
Yes.
All right. Please unmute Mr. Bighart's location. Thank you. Mr. Bighart, my name is Judge Law. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I've been speaking to a lawyer yet.
You haven't spoken to a lawyer yet. Okay.
No, Your Honor.
Have you retained a private attorney?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Finling or Mr. Doties, who would like to?
Yeah, I can speak to him, Judge.
All right, just give me a moment. 1 second. Courtroom 2. Who do we have? Courtroom 2? Courtroom 2.
Position 15, Mr. Stevens.
Stevens. Is Mr. Stevens represented by Mr. Dotis?
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes, Your Honor.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Deputy. That's very resourceful of you. Thank you. All right. I think Mr. Jordan, may we place Mr. Finling and the Alpharetta Jail location in a breakout room, please?
Thank you.
All right. We are addressing Jeffrey Stevens, who's position 15, accused of battery, domestic violence from May 8th, 2021. Mr. Stevens, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Angelo Dodis. Mr. Howard, any priors?
No.
Ms. Falk, what's the recommendation for Mr. Jeffries? Stevens?
Yes. Yes, Your Honor. I will say that we did file. I need to double check on that. I believe this incident happened in May of 2021. Defendant read some messages that made him upset and began striking his boyfriend, Teray Kennedy, across the shoulders with a Swiffer broom and tried to cut him with a plastic knife. Officers did observe lacerations to the top of Mr. Kennedy's shoulders. We understand that this defendant does not have any priors. However, this was an act of violence against an intimate partner. For that reason, the state is asking for a $3,000 surety bond, stay away from the address at 1925 Monroe Drive, Northeast in Atlanta, Georgia. No further contact with Teray Kennedy, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. And we would like to sound from Mr. Kennedy, who it looks like is here on the Zoom. Thank you.
All right, is that the name Toray, T-O-R-A-Y? All right, if the individual behind the Zoom panel, Toray, would like to unmute and start your video, we can address you. Otherwise, we're moving on. All right, Mr. Dodis, and what's your take on this case?
I'm sorry, I was having trouble getting on.
Okay, all right, please hold, Mr. Dodis. Are you Mr. Toray Kennedy?
Yes, I'm Teray Kennedy.
All right, if you'd like to say something, I need to place you under oath. Would you like to proceed?
Yes.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right. This happened about 2 years ago. And are you still in contact with Mr. Stevens?
Yes, me and Mr. Stevens are married.
Oh, okay. And have you all been living together since then?
Yes.
May of 2021.
Yes.
And have there been any other situations come up since then?
No.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. You may mute your screen. Mr. Dodis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Stevens is 23 years old. We would request a signature bond. He is a lifelong resident of the state of Georgia. I do have a good address for him, which is on the booking sheet, and I'm happy to send that to Miss Grace. As Mr. Kennedy noted, they have been married since 2021 with no further violent incidents or any incidents at all that I can tell. So we would request a signature bond. Mr. Stevens is currently working, and we don't want him to lose his job. He is clear that this will not resolve his case, that there will be future court dates, and that this doesn't just drop the case just because Mr. Kennedy appeared or anything like that. But in the meantime, we would request a signature bond with no further violent contact, since we did hear from Mr. Kennedy.
Bond is set at $2,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services. Mr. Stevens can sign up for the bond, but he'll report to pretrial once a month. He's not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not possess any weapons or firearms. There shall be no further violent contact with Teray Kennedy, which means that he can return to the marital home and continue to live with Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Stevens, within 30 days of being released, you still have to come back to the clerk's office and update us with your new mailing address so we can send you your summons for your next court appearance. Just one other thing. Oh, yes. Considering the allegations that have been set forth in the warrant, I'm going to require Mr. Stevens to complete a domestic violence intervention program. Mr. Stevens, within 60 days of being released from jail, you would have to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program. It's called a DVIP or an FVIP, Family Violence Intervention Program. This is a 24-week program. You will have to complete those classes at your expense. You must report to pretrial by your second visit that you have enrolled in such a program. This is going to be a condition of your signature bond. Do you understand, sir? And we can unmute courtroom 2.
And all the information that you stated, is that going to be presented to me so I can have a record of that? Because I'm
Once, I can't hear you. Repeat.
everything that you're stating, am I going to get a copy of everything that I need to do? Because I'm not going to be able to remember all of that information.
It's Mr. Dotis, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, Mr. Stevens, I'll make sure that you are provided a copy of everything and be in contact with you, okay?
Okay.
All right, and you can consult with Mr. Dotis about qualified programs where you can complete these classes, because that's going to be a condition of your bond. And if you complete them, that may lead towards a more favorable resolution of your case, as long as you don't get arrested again.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Position 8, Mr. Kip Singh.
Is that still Mr. Dotis' case?
It is.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. This is State versus Nicholas Kipsang, accused of criminal trespass and fair evasion from July 7th, 2023. Mr. Kipsang, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Angelo Dotis. Mr. Howard, any priors?
8th arrest. He's been arrested like 4 times this year for trespass. That's it.
All right, thank you. Ms. Nimini?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident happened at 235 Peachtree Street in Atlanta. Plainclothes officers observed defendant at the Garnett MARTA station, and they watched him forcibly gain entry through the handicap gate without paying. Considering that there have been 5 or 6 criminal trespass on MARTA's property, and the fact that there is a permanent ban that MARTA has in place, the state is asking for $1,000 split bond, 500 signature for fair evasion. The second charge, 500 surety, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. Stay away from all MARTA locations and property as well.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Dotis, looks like he took a plea back. Well, on 2 of his cases from this year alone. So what's your bond recommendation?
Your Honor, I spoke with Mr. Kipsang. He's 25 years old. He has spent the last 5 years in the state of Georgia, but he is residentially challenged, and he's currently struggling to stay on his feet and unemployed. Because he could not afford any bond, we would recommend a signature bond. And our office he knows that our office is here with a list of resources to help him get back on his feet.
Okay, it's 500 signature bond through the jail on the fair evasion, 500 surety on the criminal trespass, and he's to stay away from all MARTA property, not just the Garnett station, every single one, buses and trains. Next court date is July 20th. Thank you. It's a $1,000 split bond.
Position 9, Mr. Martin.
Good day, Judge.
Hello? All right, this is Antoine Marquise Martin, accused of criminal trespass from July 4th, 2023. Mr. Martin, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Dotis. Mr. Howard, any priors?
18 total. Last arrest was May, shoplifting conviction. 2023, simple assault. Couple of FTAs from 2022. Probation 2022, 2021 criminal trespass, damage to property, arrest.
That's good, thank you. Miss Falk?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened July 4th on 2023 at Chappelle Road and Joseph E. Boone on MARTA bus 1568. Miss Fielder, Kim Fielder, the bus operator, stated the defendant punched the door window, cracking it, and ran off. Officers viewed the video from that location showing the defendant approaching the bus doors, punching the glass multiple times, causing the door to shatter. The operator then pulled over to notify bus communications, and the video then shows the defendant punching the back of the bus, and then the bus pulling away with the defendant chasing behind. Ms. Fielder stated she had recognized the defendant from a prior incident on Route 51 the previous day, and footage was pulled from that incident as well, and combined footage was used to create a bolo. The defendant was then identified at the 5 Points MARTA station on that bolo on July 7th, was detained, Mirandized, and stated he recalled the incident. He was walking and sat down at the bus stop. The operator said he was on drugs and closed the door on him, and that he broke the window. The state is recommending $1,000 surety bond, which is the current surety bond. We're requesting that it remain in place. Stay away from all MARTA stations and MARTA buses. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons. No further contact with Kim Fielder. And we are recommending that due to not only the history involving the 2021 criminal damage to property, as well as the several FTAs, but the fact that he does have that history is why we're recommending a $1,000 surety bond remain in place. That's all for the state.
Mr. Dotis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Martin is 34 years old. He is a lifelong resident of the state of Georgia, as well as the city of Atlanta. I have a good phone number for Mr. Martin. I did confirm his address. It is the same address as on the booking report, but I will need to provide Miss Grace and pretrial with the apartment numbers that's missing, so that we can make sure that Mr. Martin is getting his mail sent to the correct apartment number. He is currently on a fixed income a month and is unable to afford any monetary bond, so we would request a signature bond. He is clear that he will need to comply with any active MARTA suspensions.
Bond is set at $1,000 surety bond. Stay away from all MARTA property, including buses and trains and bus stops. And next court date is going to be July 20th. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Thank you.
Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Can I speak and say something, please?
You have a right to remain silent. If you say anything, your attorney would be telling you that would not be a right thing to do, because your statements can and will be used against you.
I just wanted to say, I apologize.
Mr. Martin, I'll come and see you, but I don't want you to say anything else on this Zoom, okay?
All right, I
All right,
apologize.
thank you, sir. I'll come and see you.
Your Honor, the state would just like to renew our recommendation for no further contact with Ms. Kim Fielder.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, that was in there too. No further contact with Kim Fielder. Fielder, common spelling?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
Your Honor, we can go to Alpharetta.
Okay, thank you. This is State versus Anthony Bighart, and Mr. Bighart is at the Alpharetta jail location. Mr. Bighart, you have a right to remain silent about the facts of the case. Any statements you make, your comments can and will be used against you. You have a right to an attorney, and representing you this afternoon is Mr. Zach Finley. This is a case in which Mr. Bighart is accused of simple battery and theft by shoplifting from March 1st, 2023 at a Home Depot, if I recall, on I think it was Holcomb Bridge, but I may be wrong. Okay. Mr. Howard, any priors?
47 total. Last arrest was February, DUI.
Any prior
Probation.
shoplifting?
I'm getting there.
Okay, thank you.
You know, well, let me give you the inter and auto. You're on probation in the cab for 4 counts of inter and auto. Theft by receiving, probation as well. And 2021 criminal attempt to commit a felony conviction and some fleeing charges. That's it.
So this is a first shoplifting arrest?
I don't know about first shoplifting, but I didn't go auto. I stopped at 2019 with the history.
All right, thank you.
I'll let state go. Yeah.
All right, Ms. Falk, Mr. Howard has deferred that to you.
I see, Your Honor. This happened at the Home Depot at 1580 Holcomb Bridge Road. Your Honor was correct, in Roswell, Georgia. The defendant took some pipe shears worth $215, walked past all points of sale, and when one of the store employees by the name of Curtis Fisher attempted to stop him, he did push that individual. I do not believe, and let me just briefly double check, I do not believe this is the first theft by shoplifting, but I may be confusing that with another case that we had that involved theft by shoplifting. I will say that the defendant does have a lengthy history, including parole violations that go all the way back to 2005, and probation violations that go all the way forward to the late 2000s, 2008, 2010. I did see a theft by taking in 2008 as well, theft by receiving stolen property in 2011, and more theft by receiving stolen property. Actually, I may be incorrect. This may be his first theft by shoplifting. I may have just been confused by all the other thefts. So that is our state's recommendation at this time, Your Honor, is going to be a $2,500 surety bond. That is already the bond set on this case. So we are asking that it remain a set, that he stay away from the Home Depot located at 1580 Holcomb Bridge Road in Roswell, Georgia, that he have no further contact whatsoever with Mr. Curtis Fisher, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. That's all for the state. Oh, and we are dividing that up, 1,500 for the theft by shoplifting, 1,000 for the.
Understood. Thank you. Mr. Finley?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Bickhart is 53 years old. He has lived in Atlanta, or Fulton County, I will say, for 27 years. So he does have a base of people, Judge, family, and friends. So he does have community ties. He has been employed with a construction company working full-time. He does, just made sure to tell me, he definitely does dispute these charges or the sequence of events. He is seeking recovery currently at Atlanta Recovery on Garnett Street, Judge.
Mhm.
And while I definitely recommend his criminal history and cycles and so on, he did stress to me that he struggles financially. So I am going to ask for a signature bond on his behalf. But I defer to Your Honor, and if not, we'll ask for a $1,000 surety bond.
And Your Honor, I misspoke. It is actually a $5,000 surety bond. We are agreeable to reducing that to $2,500, but he had $2,500 surety bond on each charge.
I think y'all added the theft by shoplifting.
No, Your Honor, that was part of his already existing warrant. I have the warrant number right
No,
here.
you're right. You're right. I don't know why the booking only reflects that.
Right. That's what happened when I looked at the shorter booking too. I only saw the one count with 2,500. I had to expand it to see that he actually had two bonds.
Okay. On the simple battery, I'm going to go with the state's recommendation. It's going to be $1,000 surety. Is that the one you were going with? $1,000 surety and 1,500 on the theft by shoplifting.
Yes, Your Honor.
Essentially, you've recommended half of the amount that was originally set by the
That is correct.
magistrate judge. Okay. Yeah, it's a $2,500 surety bond. Unfortunately, Mr. Bickhart's criminal record history and the allegations set forth in the warrant do not qualify him for a signature bond. He is to stay 200 yards away from the Home Depot store on Holcomb Bridge Road in Fulton County, and he is to have no further contact with Curtis Fisher, who I'm assuming is one of the staff employees at that Home Depot store. Mr. Bickhart, you're not to consume any alcohol, not possess any illegal weapon, not possess any weapons or firearms, and not consume any illegal drugs. Your next court date in our court is going to be July 20th. I think Mr. Howard indicated that he's on probation in DeKalb, so I don't know what's going to happen to that case. So we'll see. Mr. Findling, unfortunately, I can't hear Mr. Bickhart. His computer's muted.
Okay. Understood, Judge. And I just want to double check really quick. The breakdown was 1,000 and then 1,500, correct?
1,000 on a simple battery, and theft by shoplifting is 1,500. Will the officer at Alpharetta Jail please unmute the computer? All right. Will the officer at the Alpharetta Jail please unmute? Okay. Mr. Bickhart, I saw you trying to make some statements. I'd like to remind you that you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say, especially about the facts of the case, your statements can and will be used against you. I
am not on probation. That probation was nullified quite a few years. I haven't really been in trouble in 2 years. What I've been doing is trying to help out, mentor some children, not children, but student kids. I used to be a teacher. I'm trying to straighten them out in my life. What happened in this situation? I was broke.
Mr. Bickhart, I would strongly recommend, please don't speak about what happened, sir. Just looking out for you.
Anyways, with this court date, Your Honor, is it gonna be down in Atlanta or, you know, because it's misdemeanor stuff, state charges, it gets moved down to Atlanta now because it's state charges?
Misdemeanor stuff. You're absolutely right.
I mean, state charge, Your Honor. Nice hair, by the way, Your Honor.
Yes, sir, you're absolutely right. Even though it's misdemeanor, you'll be transported from the Alpharetta jail and to the Fulton County Jail in Wright Street, downtown Atlanta. And if you do not make bond, your next court appearance will be via Zoom on July 20th at 9 a.m.
Good.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
Position,
Alpharetta Jail, thank you very much. I think, unless you have any other cases, you are free to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Courtroom 2. Who do we have, please?
position 5, Mr. Davis.
This is Marquel Davis, accused of willful obstruction of an officer in violation of rules regarding pedestrian and roadway. This is from July 7th, 2023. Mr. Davis, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Zach Finley. Mr. Howard, any priors?
His fourth arrest. He was arrested last month on a capital case along with criminal street gang.
All right, thank you.
Those charges were DWAP, so everything is dismissed.
All right.
All right.
Ms. Nimini?
Yes, Your Honor. This event did happen yesterday between 10th Street and Techwood Drive near Highway 75 and 85 southbound. Officers were dispatched due to a call for disorderly children and the water boy selling at that intersection. The 911 caller was no longer at the location when the police did arrive, but they did state that one of the males attempted to cash app themselves $400 from the caller's phone. Upon arrival at the location, the officer did observe defendant, black male in a gray hoodie, within a roadway walking between the cars. He approached the group and the group did disperse, and the officer did run after the defendant, and then officers watched the defendant jump over the guardrail, run down the grassy embankment and onto I-75 and I-85 and run through traffic. And the officer tried to get him to stop because it's for safety reasons. And the defendant did continue going until he turned back around and fell. And that's when the officers were able to apprehend defendant. The state is offering a $1,500 surety bond, $500 for the obstruction, $1,000 for the pedestrian in the roadway. Do not sell water on the roadway, and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Finley, now that particular group at that location now called the Water Boys. Sounds like a rock group right now, but do you have any other recommendation?
Judge, I am going to ask for a signature bond on his behalf. Finances are a big issue in his life. He is 18 years old, Judge, Atlanta born and raised. All of his friends and family are here. He does have a child on the way, and he does have a job interview coming up this week for his kind of first full-time job. So I am going to ask for a signature bond on his behalf, Judge.
All right, his bond is going to be $1,000. It's going to be $500 on each count. That's $1,000 signature bond through the jail. And he is to stay away from the intersection of 10th Street and Techwood, not engage in any non-licensed sales at that location, whether it's water or Gatorade. And we will see you in court. Make sure your address is current with us, and we will send you your summons for your next court date. Thank you.
Position 6, Mr. Hagan.
This is Mr. Cash James Hagan, accused of theft by shoplifting from April 20th, 2023. Mr. Hagan, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Finley. Any priors, Mr. Toussaint?
33 total, 2020 probation, 2020 failure to appear, 2019 simple battery conviction, 2016 and 18 probation. I stopped there.
Any shoplifting convictions that you saw on his list?
No, not that I saw, no.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Nimini?
Yes, Your Honor, I have a 2005 and a 2006. theft by shoplifting.
So this will be his third lifetime shoplifting arrest?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
This incident did occur April 20th of this year at 631 Holcomb Bridge Road in Roswell, also known as the Famous Footwear. Officers arrived at the location. They spoke with the store manager, Miss Alexis Harper, who advised the officer that defendant came into the store around 2 p.m. and began shopping for shoes. He tried on shoes. He asked questions, appeared to be texting someone while he was shopping. He was able to gather 3 pairs of shoes, Nike, Timberland, and black Manolos, and walked out of the front of the door as he was asked to stop by the store manager. The defendant did get into a white car that was parked outside of the door and sped away. Officers were able to talk to the witness, and they were able to receive video footage of the incident and receive a positive ID of the defendant in the lineup. Considering that he has many cycles, many theft cycles. The state is asking for $2,500 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, an anti-theft course, and to stay away from location 631 Holcomb Bridge Road at Roswell, Georgia.
Okay, Mr. Finley?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Hagan is 45 years old. He is originally born and raised from Atlanta, Georgia, so all of his friends and family are here, Judge. He is employed and does some work as an electrician. Mr. Hagan told me that he did have triplets yesterday, and one of them passed away in childbirth, which this incident happened shortly before that, I believe. And I apologize, it's incorrect on that aspect of it. But I am going to ask for a signature bond on his behalf. He really stressed to me he needs to get out as soon as possible, Judge, and him making a bond or it would be difficult to afford. So I am going to ask for a signature bond on his behalf, Your Honor.
Okay. Bond said $1,000 surety. He's to stay away from the Famous Footwear store at 631 Holcomb Bridge Road in Atlanta, Georgia. And no illegal drugs, no weapons, no firearms, and no alcohol. Next court date is July 20th. If he does make bond, he will be given a new court date, which will be mailed to his current address. Thank you.
Position 7.
This
Mr.
is State versus Rondarius Hawkins, accused of contributing to the delinquency of a minor from July 6, 2023. Mr. Hawkins, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Finley. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Third adult arrest. Last arrest was 2021, violation of RICO, unlawful to participate in criminal street gang. And that's open 21 SC 178179.
Thank you. Ms. Hawk?
So, Your Honor, the state will be petitioning the DA's office on Monday to have this case transferred. The reason why, just to let the court know, is 2 warrants were added this morning. One for criminal gang activity and one for, I believe the other one was a RICO charge. And those were connected to this case. So they were part and parcel of this case. I have the warrant numbers. It's EW 0408588, and that's the criminal street gang activity charge. And then there is a charge of EW 0408589. That is unlawful for a person to commit an offense with the intent to obtain, earn membership, maintain, and increase status in a gang. And that's a felony charge as well. Those were literally added this morning. I checked with the felony first appearance. He's not going to first appearance on those charges until Monday. He did not appear in felony first appearance today on those charges, and they are no bond charges. But because the warrants were split up, this creates a double jeopardy issue for state court. We cannot keep this case and go ahead and then prosecute him on the associated charges. However, because there is going to be a Riverside issue, if we do not address it today, we will be going forward on the bond.
All right.
So in this case, Your Honor, it is alleged that the defendant handed a firearm to a juvenile, and that's going to be IF. The juvenile was given a firearm by the defendant, which was witnessed by officers. At that point, the officers did place this defendant under arrest. I will say that this defendant has a bond already outstanding on that previous case, which is a 21 SC 177808. As a part of that bond, the defendant was to have no firearms, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. And let me just pull that bond up so I can get the date correct. That bond was issued, it looks like, on February 5th, 2021. And so the state is going to request in this case a $25,000 surety bond. Based on that, we are asking that he stay away from the location, which is going to be 1040 Crew Street, Southwest Atlanta. We are also asking that he have no further contact whatsoever with the juvenile IF, no alcohol, drugs, and weapons, and we're asking that he surrender any and all firearms to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. We are very concerned about this case, and although we cannot ask for no bond, we are asking for a bond sufficiently high enough to ensure that we can move forward on this case, and the DA's office can move forward with the remainder of their case. That's all for the state.
All right, Mr. Finley?
Yes, Judge. Mr. Hawkins is 20 years old. He is born and raised in Atlanta, Judge, so he does have lots of family and friends, definitely has community ties. I did stress to him the importance of coming back to court. He assured me that he would. He currently does have a good address. He lives with his mom, and he does have one child on the way, Judge. I am going to ask for a $2,000 surety bond, Judge. His family is extremely financially challenged. So whether it's 2,000, 35,000, they would not likely be able to make it anyways. So I am gonna ask for a $2,000 surety bond, Judge. And he does understand the importance of coming to court and assured me that he would, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Bond is set at 15,000. It is a surety bond. No further contact with IF, to stay away from the location at 1040 Crew Street in Southwest Atlanta, including the basketball court at the Four Corners Park. He's to stay away from the entire Four Corners Park. Next court date is July 20th, subject to this case being transferred to the Superior Court of Fulton County.
And Your Honor, the provision about no alcohol, drugs, or weapons and surrender any and all.
Yep, we have that stamped on each bond order, no alcohol, drugs, or firearms. So hopefully sometimes we will read that. Okay, who do we have, please, in courtroom 2?
Position 14, Mr. Simmons.
Okay. This is Quentin Simmons, accused of simple battery domestic violence from July 7th, 2023. Mr. Simmons, please remember your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Zach Finley.
Oh, sorry.
Is it Mr. Dotis? Oh, Ms. McLeod. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, excuse me. Mr. Simmons, your attorney is Ms. Maureen McLeod. Do you see her on the screen? You can just nod your head if you see her, or shake your head if you don't. Could we unmute, please?
Yes, ma'am, I see her.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Howard, any priors?
Yeah, hold on, let me get this case number for you real quick. Hold on. 841. Not on here. Simmons, 10th arrest, 2022. It says intimidating law enforcement or immediate family in retaliation. 2017, failure to appear. 2015, possession of marijuana, given false name, conviction, suspended license, no low. 2013, probation. 2012, disorderly conduct, conviction.
Where's the probation from?
Oh, I don't know. I have to look at it.
Is that in, it's not in Fulton, so I'm curious to know where that probation case is.
Probation is in Norcross.
Norfolk? All right, so it's a city case?
This is Norcross.
Okay.
Yes, Your Honor. It looks to be based off the disorderly conduct and possession of marijuana in 2012.
I see. Okay,
I was looking for the case number for the last arrest. I didn't see it. State may know it though. It was out of East Point.
all right.
I
Ms.
I
Hall?
will say to Your Honor and to pretrial, that 2022 case, I could not locate that in our system. So I'm not sure if it's still over in East Point, but I could not locate it as far as it was concerned in our case manager system.
All right. So what's your recommendation on this simple battery involving a Cherie Jackson?
So, Your Honor, this happened back on July 7th, so yesterday at 5225 Willow Park Boulevard in Atlanta. Ms. Jackson stated the defendant came home, accused her of cheating with the yard man, began shoulder bumping her, and then punched her in the stomach. We are asking for a $3,000 surety bond given the most recent arrest and the nature of those charges. We're also asking for no further contact with Ms. Cherie Jackson. Stay away from 5225 Willow Park Boulevard in Atlanta. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons. I do not see her here on the line, but we would just like to sound for her out of an abundance of caution.
All right, Ms. Cherie Jackson, if you're present, please unmute and start your video. All right, Ms. McLeod?
Yes, Your Honor, good afternoon.
Good
Mr.
afternoon.
Simmons is 36 years old. As Petral has said, he has had some arrests, but he does not have any significant convictions and certainly no history of violence whatsoever. He is employed. He tells me that he and the alleged victim have been in a relationship for about 5 years now, but it has not been going well recently. And he tells me that it's the other way around. It's that she has been accusing him of cheating, Your Honor. And that was an issue they do live together, but he had recently moved out and had not been there a lot, but he did go back there yesterday. And that was when she accused him of cheating and got in an argument with him. He denies that he punched her, Your Honor. He said that is absolutely false. She was just upset with him, and that is why she made these allegations. He is okay with no further contact with her, Your Honor, because he tells me that essentially the relationship between them was over, and that is the issue. He would need a one-time police escort to go back to the location to retrieve his belongings. I would ask the court to consider giving my client a signature bond, given the fact that he has no violent history, nothing further.
What exactly is left there if he's already moved out?
He does have some things left there. Things were not going well, and he'd been staying sort of with some friends and so on, but he has not moved out all his property yet, Your Honor. He does have some other belongings there. The warrant does say that he had already moved a TV, but he does have some other belongings there. So he would need a one-time police escort to go back to finish getting the rest of his belongings, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Simmons, could we unmute? What else do you need to take from the apartment?
It's actually a house, Your Honor. The house is in my name. I have all the evidence that I need.
What items do you need from the property?
My whole life is in the house. The house is in my name. She stated to me that she was gonna get a TPO against me. I have all the evidence and text messages and things like that. She told me
I don't care what evidence you have. I want to know what belongings do you need to.
everything. My clothes.
I think he's saying that his belongings are still there because
Okay.
the house is in his name, but he had moved out. He had moved away from there. He just wasn't staying there because they were not getting along. But it is still his house that he rented. His name is on the lease and everything. But because they were not getting along and he had moved away from there in the past couple of weeks and had been staying elsewhere, Your Honor.
Okay.
But he still needs to move his belongings out because they are his belongings. It's just that they were not getting along. He had somewhere else he could stay, so he moved away from there, but not fully. He just wasn't staying there.
They've been living together for about 5 years. I think you mentioned that.
That is correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so Right now, I'm gonna set a bond at $5,000. It's gonna be a signature bond through pretrial. He's to have no further contact with Cherie Jackson, to stay 200 yards away from her, not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. He's allowed a one-time visit with a police officer to retrieve sufficient items that require him to be able to just stay elsewhere. But if there are any items in dispute, for example, if Miss Jackson says he cannot take that or he cannot take this, he's not allowed to pick them up. He is not.
I understand, Your Honor.
So if he wants to retrieve his clothes, his underwear, his phone charger, I can understand. But if he's going to pick up the dining table or a sofa or something, and she says, no, that stays, he can't remove that item. Yeah, it's kind of a nasty situation when these kind of things blow out of proportion. But that's the only way I'm going to permit. I'm actually not inclined to grant a one-time visit under these circumstances. I just get the vibe that that visit's not going to turn out right.
No, if law enforcement is there, Your Honor, it should be okay. And he would need some of his stuff.
If there is any breach of peace, law enforcement is authorized to immediately arrest you and bring you back to jail, and the signature bond will be revoked. All right. If you'll have to report to pretrial once a month. You can't afford to get arrested again. Otherwise, pretrial will revoke the signature bond and will convert to a good bond. Your next court date will be sent to you to your new address. So within 30 days of being released, you are to update the court with your new mailing address. If there is a TPO being filed, well, then the TPO judge will also give you a date in which to go and retrieve your items. And again, that TPO judge will also say the same thing. If there are any items in dispute, you're not permitted to retrieve those items. All right, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And while you are out of bond, you will attend and complete a one-day anger awareness program with pretrial. Thank you.
Your Honor, could you repeat the amount of that bond? I didn't mean to interrupt you.
$5,000. $5,000 signature bond.
Through pretrial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Position 10, Mr.
Judge.
Yes, sir. Courtroom 2, who do we have again?
Position 10.
10. This is State versus Lawrence Melrose, accused of battery, domestic violence from July 5th, 2023. Mr. Melrose, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Dodis. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
His 10th arrest. He was arrested in January, possession of meth, possession of a firearm. That's open in Cobb. 2021, possession of a firearm by convicted felon. 2021, hit and run. 2012, armed robbery conviction. 2012, simple robbery. That history come out of Louisiana.
All right, thank you. Ms. Falk?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened at the La Quinta Inn and Suites at 6260 Peachtree Dunwoody Road in Sandy Springs on July 5th. Miss Breon Blackburn stated that she and the defendant got to the hotel and the defendant got into a random verbal argument with another male guest. Miss Blackburn told him he was wrong for how he treated the guest. He accused her of having something going on with the male guest. He then punched her in the head with a closed fist, took a rat tail comb out of his pocket and tried to stab her with it. When Miss Blackburn ran to the desk manager at the La Quinta Inn, the desk manager called 911. The officer in the warrant stated he was able to feel a large knot on the right side of her scalp and a smaller knot on her arm. And Miss Blackburn told the officers that the defendant had a history of violence. Miss Blackburn, we were able to speak with her. She did state that she and the defendant have been together for approximately 2 years, that they do reside together in Riverdale, Georgia, and that the lease is in her name. She did state this is the first time he put his hands on her although that is contradicted by the statements that were made in the warrant. And she did confirm the events of the warrant and stated she sustained a knot on her scalp and one on her arm. She also stated she ended up going to Northside Hospital. Despite that, she is asking for a no violent contact and wants the defendant to return. However, given the recency of the events, the state would object to that. We are instead asking for a $5,000 surety bond, no further contact with Ms. Breon Blackburn, stay away from 6260 Peachtree Dunwoody Road, as well as a stay away from 1468 Pine Glen Drive in Riverdale. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons. We are basing that largely on the incident itself, as well as the arrests out of Louisiana, which show a history of violence, which include robberies, most recently in 2021, which also give us concerns for the ties to the community. That's all from this. Oh, he also was arrested January 31st, 2023 for possession of drugs and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and possession of a firearm during commission of a felony in Cobb County. So that is our basis for our bond recommendation. We would like to sound for Ms. Black.
Yes, Miss, I think that may be Miss Blackburn. I have a Breon's iPhone. Miss Blackburn, if that is you, you need to do a couple of things. Unmute.
Yes, ma'am.
You need to lower your device so we can see your face. All right. And would you like to say anything?
I just wanted to say that,
Okay, that case, just step back a little bit from the phone. And, oh, you're in bed. You need to get out of bed.
Get out of bed?
Yes. Until the legislature allows people to testify from a bed.
Okay, is this better?
I hope so.
Okay.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Ms. Blackburn, Ms. Folk is correct. I'm sorry. Is there a reason why your phone's moving?
No, because I can't hear that well, so I'm trying to listen to you.
Okay. There are statements that have apparently been made by you in the warrant to the police officer. So the only question I have of you is, are you comfortable with Mr. Melrose being back with you?
Yeah, I'm not scared. I don't have any fear with him. I'm not, scared to be around him. We both just been under a lot of stress because we've relocated from New Orleans to out here. So, it was a heated argument, but I'm not afraid to be around him. I'd rather him be here than in jail. So I actually wanted to drop the charges if possible, because I just feel like he just got out of jail a couple of months ago. So I didn't know how to pursue that as far as going to the courthouse and dropping the charges that Sandy Springs had filed.
All right. Unfortunately, the decision to drop the charges is with only the prosecutor. All right. You really don't have that option.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Dotis?
Ms. Falk, did you have something?
I just wanted to ask the witness one question.
Go ahead.
Ms. Blackburn, when did the two of you relocate from Louisiana to Georgia?
We've been back and forth since, I want to say, last August.
Okay, so the most recent time?
A couple of weeks ago.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Blackburn. That's all for the state, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Dotis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Melrose is 28 years old. My understanding is he has been in Georgia for the past year. Before that, he was in New Orleans. I would argue that he does have substantial ties to the Atlanta Atlanta and Georgia area. He moved here with Miss Blackburn to be closer to his mom, Miss Stephanie Randall. I have her phone number as well as her address in Union City. That it's my understanding that Mr. Melrose can go to. And I will provide that. That is not on the booking sheet, so I will provide that to Miss Grace and
Okay,
pre-trial
thank you.
in the chat. He did attend high school in New Orleans, and he's currently applying for a job at the local Amazon warehouse as an Amazon driver, and does want to stay in this community since he does have his mother's support. As we heard from Miss Blackburn, she does not want this case to go forward. And despite the history we heard, this is allegedly the first time that anything got physical. She was not in fear. And does want Mr. Melrose to come home so that they can work through any and all issues. So we would request no further violent contact with Miss Blackburn. Mr. Melrose is open to any counseling to ensure that Mr. Melrose and Miss Blackburn have no further issues. Mr. Melrose is currently not working while he's applying for jobs, so he can't afford any monetary amount of bonds, so we would request a signature bond.
Okay. Going with the state's recommendation of 5,000 surety bond, no further contact with Ms. Blackburn to stay away from the La Quinta Inn, the one that's in Sandy Springs, and the location, the Pinedale Drive location in Riverdale. He's not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and definitely he's not allowed to possess any firearms or any weapons that are firearms in nature. His next court date is July 20th. And we will see him there. If he makes bond, he would need to update the court with his new address within 30 days of release.
Understood, Your Honor. Ms. Falk, would you mind chatting me that address, that second stay away address?
Of course.
Thank you.
And Ms. Falk, could you also give that to Ms. Grace so she can put that in the bond order? Thank you.
I have already given it to Miss Grace, Your Honor.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right.
Receive, Ms. Falk. Thank you.
Courtroom 2, who do we have?
Position 12, Mr. Opie.
All right. This is Mr. Madravius Obi. He's accused of criminal damage to trespass causing damage to property and reckless conduct. The allegation stems from a June 6, 2023 incident. Mr. Obi, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Mr. Dotis. Mr. Howard, any priors?
27 total. Last arrest was 2022. Unauthorized discharge of a firearm within 50 yards of a public highway. Criminal damage to property, second degree. That's 22 CP 207256. He got a few more of obstruction arrests, 2015 armed robbery, theft by receiving, 2014 obstruction and theft by receiving conviction.
All right, thank you. Ms. Falk?
Yes, Your Honor. This allegation was that this occurred on June 6, 2023 at 2828 Deerwood Drive Southwest. Mr. Dontavius Wright stated he was in an altercation with the defendant in the front yard of their home over the defendant not refilling the generator after using it. According to Mr. Wright, the defendant brandished a firearm and shot at his 2005 Nissan Armada. The rear window and back window of the vehicle was shot out, and that was observed by the officers. And it was stated that Mr. Wright was in the yard as the shots were fired. The officers did recover a 9mm shell casing at that location. The issue that the state has here is that 22 CP 207256 case, the criminal damage to property, second degree discharge of firearms near the highway. He was given a $15,000 surety bond on that case. And the allegation in that case was that on March 7th, 2022, the defendant shot out his brother Dontavius Wright's ice cream truck with a shotgun, damaging 6 windows to the amount of $1,700. A $15,000 surety bond was given in that case, as well as no further violent contact with Dontavius Wright, stay away from Deerwood Drive, and no weapons. That was signed by Judge Holly Hughes on March 7th, 2022. So here we are back again with allegations that the defendant was shooting at the victim's car instead of his ice cream truck, and this time with a firearm instead of a handgun instead of a shotgun. This is a very dangerous situation in the state's opinion, and we are very concerned for the safety of Mr. Wright at this point. We are asking for a $10,000 cash bond. That is $5,000 per charge, especially considering the bond conditions on the first bond have been absolutely violated here. We are requesting no further contact with Dontavius Wright. Stay away from 2828 Deerwood Drive, and absolutely no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, including no firearms, and that he surrender any and all firearms he still has in his possession to the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. Would like to sound for Mr. Dontavius Wright. I see a Miss Maddie Obi, but I do not see a Mr. Wright, but we would like to sound for Mr. Dontavius Wright.
Dontavius Wright? Okay, Miss Maddie Obi. Miss Obi, you've been waiting here. If you'd like to say something, you would need to unmute. All right, you're unmuted. Miss Obi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, if you'd like to say something, please raise your right hand. The other hand?
You said right hand.
All right. We solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge.
Yes.
And how do you know Madravius Obi?
That's my baby son.
All right. And what would you like to tell me?
Well, he didn't do nothing.
All right. Were you at the incident, Miss Obi?
Yes.
So you were there with Dontavius Wright?
Yes, that's my middle son.
Okay. So Dontavius Wright and Madravius are stepbrothers?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Miss Obi, I highly recommend that you reach out to the public defender's office. His name, the attorney's name is Angelo Dotis, and you would definitely need to speak to him about what you know about the case, okay?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. You may mute your Zoom. Thank you. All right, Mr. Dotis. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Obi is 31 years old. He is clear about the 2022 case. He maintains his innocence in that case as well as this case. He is a lifelong resident of the state of Georgia. I do have good contact information for him and his family, including his mother, Miss Maddie Obi. I do want to note that my client my apologies, Your Honor. I believe that my client has a stable housing with Miss Obi, his mother and father, Mr. Marvin Obi. I'll need to confirm that address. As soon as I confirm that, I will supply that to the court and anyone else who needs it. Mr. Obi is married to a Miss Maya Phillips, and together they have 4 children, an 11-month-old, a 6-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 14-year-old, all girls. He's currently taking classes at Gwinnett College for medical assistance program and is currently working with True Connect and Safety Net, where he sells wireless devices. We are asking for a $3,000 surety bond at this time, as well as a one-time police escort to the incident location. I'm not sure. He may have personal property there. I believe it was he was living with his brother at the time, so we want to make sure that he can get his property.
My biggest concern is that this particular case seems to be an ongoing dispute from the 2021 involving the same players. Dontavius Wright is involved in the 21 case, and now his name has popped up again in the current case. Both incidents seem to involve firearms. Both incidents seem to involve damage to vehicles. And both incidents all occurred on or about Deerwood. Is it Deerwood Drive?
Both occurred at 2828 Deerwood Drive.
And in both incidences, Mr. Madravius Obi is the one who's got a warrant and cases against him. I'm going to grant the state's request. It's going to be a $10,000 cash bond only. Mr. Obi is completely prohibited from owning, using, or in being possession of any weapon or any firearm. He is to surrender all firearms to the authorities for immediate destruction. He's not permitted to own any firearms during the pendency of both cases. He is to have no further contact with Don Travius Wright, and he's to stay away from the location of 2828 Deerwood Drive. He's to stay 200 yards away from that entire location. He would have to update us with his mailing address if he makes bond, and his next court date will be July 20th. Thank you.
What's that breakdown?
10,000 cash only.
Your Honor, is that 5,000 per count?
Yes, sorry, 5,000 per count. Yes.
Thank you.
And Ms. Falk, that was 22 CP 270-256. Would that be correct?
207-256.
270-256.
207.
Oh, 207, excuse me.
22 CP. Yep.
Right. Got it. Thank you.
Position 13, Mr. Sharp.
Okay. Was there anyone else after Mr. Shaw?
I believe that's it, Your Honor.
That's it? Okay. This is John Sharp, charged with simple battery domestic violence from February 25th, 2021. And Mr. Sharp, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Dotis. And Mr. Howard?
34 total. Last arrest was 2022 out of New York City. Criminal possession of a weapon, 3rd and 4th degree. Obtaining transportation without paying, that appears to be open. Got a assault 3rd degree out of New York as well. Battery DV 19 CR 010203J. 2022 assault 3rd degree. Criminal obstructing. 2015 simple battery trespass conviction. And I think he got a dormant bench warrant.
In the 19th case?
I think so.
Yes, Your Honor, that's correct.
Okay,
The defendant failed to appear on September 14th, 2021, and a bench warrant was issued. He's currently being held on a $5,000 surety bond on that bench warrant, and that's in the jail system.
All right, thank you. And what's the state's recommendation for this case?
Your Honor, the allegation is February 25th, 2021 at 1240 Oakland Drive, Southwest, apartment I-2. Officers spoke with Lorenzo King, who stated the defendant choked him and grabbed his wrist in a violent manner. The 19 CR 10203J case also involved Mr. Lorenzo King, and as part of the bond conditions of that case, it was a $2,500 surety bond, no further contact with Lorenzo King, and stay away from 1240 Oakland Drive, which is the same address, no weapons. That was signed by Judge Borski on December 17th, 2019. Not only is this defendant a multi-state offender with cases most recently out of New York, but he has also violated the conditions and terms of this bond in their entirety. For that reason, the state is asking for a $3,000 cash bond, no further contact with Lorenzo King, stay away from 1240 Oakland Drive Southwest, apartment I-2, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons. We would like to sound for Mr. King.
Mr. King?
And I understand I do not see him on the Zoom. I just wanted to do that for an abundance of caution.
Okay. Mr. Dotis?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Sharp is 31 years old. He was born and raised in the state of Georgia. He does have family ties to the area with his uncle Tyrone, who I spoke with on the phone before this, who is going to be doing his best to support Mr. Sharp. Mr. Sharp does have a good address in Decatur, Georgia to return to, and that is the address on the booking report. He did attend Southwest DeKalb High and wants to finish by getting his GED. He's currently a shift leader at a Subway where he believes if released, his job is waiting for him. We are requesting a signature bond Mr. Sharp has indicated that he cannot afford any monetary amount of bond right now. And after speaking with his uncle, it seems like it may be a while until he's able to help with bond. I will note that he is being held additionally on a failure to appear, which he tells me was because he moved addresses. He's clear that for that case and this case, that it is his responsibility to keep his address updated and check in at least once a month for any upcoming court dates. But again, that $5,000 surety bond will continue holding him. So we would request a signature bond in this case.
Bond is set at $5,000 surety. Its next court date is July 20th. No further contact with Lorenzo King and stay away from 1240 Oakland Drive in Atlanta, Georgia, the entire complex. No alcohol, no drugs, no weapons. And we're going to bind this over to the SAP case along with the second case, which is 19 CR 010203J. Ms. Grace, did you get the number? I think the way it's printed in the calendar is incorrect.
Yes, I have it, Judge. You say 19 CR 001020.
No, the correct case number is 19 CR 010203J. Yes, Mr. Sharp, I do see your hand up. I'll address you in a moment.
And I placed it in the chat as well for Miss Grace, Your Honor.
I have it. Thank
So
you.
both cases will be addressed at the SAP calendar if you're still with us at the jail. Mr. Sharp, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you choose to say about this case or the other open case, your statements can and will be used against you.
I feel like these cases are the same case. I don't know how it got.
And
It seems like it's two different.
Mr.
cases.
Sharp,
These are the same cases.
Mr. Sharp,
All right.
I spoke with you on the phone. I'm going to come see you and we'll go over everything, but I don't want you to say too much on Zoom.
It's crazy, bro.
All right, thank you. All right, I believe that concludes the C calendar. Deputy, do we have any other matters to address in courtroom 2?
No, ma'am, that's it.
All right, sir, you have a good weekend then. Thank you. All right, folks, on position 1.
Hold on, Judge.
Yes.
All pretrial cases today are per judge.
Yes, I've got that on my banner right here. So.
And I have it also, Mr. Howard.
Thank you.
All right, going back to the calendar, position 1, Mikkel Bell is a 2,500 signature bond for pretrial. Position 2, Bethea is a 2,500 surety, reset July 20th. Position 3 is a 2,500 surety, 1,000 on the battery, 1,500 on the shoplifting, reset dates July 20th. Position 4, Cosby is it's a $2,000 surety bond. Reset date July 20th. Position 5, Davis is a $1,000 signature bond through the jail. Position 6, Hagen's a $1,000 surety, reset July 20th. Position 7, Hawkins is a $15,000 surety bond. Reset date is July 20th. Pending a transfer to Superior Court. Position 8, Kipsang is a $1,000 split bond. 500 signature bond through the jail on the fair evasion, 500 surety on the trespass. Reset date July 20th. Martin is a $1,000 surety, reset July 20th. Melrose is a $5,000 surety, reset July 20th. Levin Mitchell's a $6,000 split, reset date July 20th. Obi is a $10,000 cash bond, reset date July 20th. On Obi, I've got 2 other open cases, companion cases. Could we reset all the two other companion cases?
Yes, I have it, Judge.
All right, thank you. On position 13 is a $5,000 surety bond, and that's going to be reset to July 20th along with the companion case. 14 is a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial, and 15 Stevens is a $5,000 signature, no, 2,500 signature bond through pretrial and further notice.
What was the contact with 14?
14 was no contact with Sherry Jackson. Sherry is spelled S-C-H.
Oh, I'm good, I'm good.
You got it? Okay.
And Judge, also, can I get the conditions? Odyssey went down on me for position number 4. Just the conditions. I know it's a 2,000 good bond.
Just basically stay away from all water.
Okay.
That was it. And so, and stay away from the 5
Binkies.
Points Martyr Station area, and including that
Binkies restaurant.
Binkies. I was going to say Dinkies, but okay, Binkies. All right, okay. Never been there. Has anyone been to Binkies? No? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
it's pretty good.
There we go, with a sideshow to boot. Okay. All right, folks, everyone, thank you very much. We will see you on Monday. Friday night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.